Africa is rising and you need to have a stake in its opportunities. It involves you knowing what business to invest in and, more importantly, how you do it. Join me on Doing Business in Ghana and let's talk some business. My name is Yao Franchieni. Let's talk later. Welcome to Doing Business in Ghana. I'm glad you are watching here today. You know what? There is an African proverb that says that if the fish comes from the river to tell you that a crocodile is dead, you better believe. Now, this program, Doing Business in Ghana, is all about how you can come to Ghana to do business and succeed, and as we say, to make it happen. Now, we had a chance to talk to Miss Nadia, the CEO of Sixth Sense Manifesto, with a brand management agency dealing with marketing and PR for corporate organizations. Now, her story, I find very intriguing, and I think it offers a lot that we could learn from, especially if we are nursing the interest of us ever coming to Ghana to come and set up a business. We are speaking to Nadia because she moved from the UK where she grew up to set up her businesses in Ghana. We spoke to her, going through her experiences, struggles, successes in developing the businesses. I learned a lot personally, and I hope you would enjoy listening to our chat. Okay, Nadia, good to see you.
Thank you very much.
Good. Can you just tell us about your business, what you do?
Okay, I have two businesses. The first business is Sixth Sense Manifesto. It's a brand management agency. We basically deal with marketing for corporates within Ghana and Nigeria. Then the second business is Sai Wine and Champagne Cafe, which is exactly what it is. It's a wine and champagne cafe, a place where people can come, read books, do some work, chill with friends, have lunch.
That's right. So what motivated you to come to Ghana to set up this business?
I would say the initial motivation was always learning about how Ghana was, or Africa was, the next destination, like for everybody to go to. And if you didn't come to Ghana in the next 5 years, you would have missed the boat. And just in general, like Ghana was always the better performing country in Africa. And obviously, this being a place where my parents are from, etc., it really excited me to come. Then, as I always tell everybody, it was a spiritual journey. So me actually being in Ghana is because it was a spiritual calling to be here.
Well, that's right. So when you decided to come in, right, what has been your foundational preparation? What have you, because you had an idea, you knew you had to prepare before coming in. How did you prepare?
I didn't. Like I said, it was a spiritual calling. And with that, you have the faith and the belief that God is going to feed you with everything that you need to do. And that's exactly what happened. I was actually pregnant at the time when I decided, or at the time my partner and I decided to come to Ghana. And when we got to Ghana, then it was, okay, within 6 months, we're just going to see how Ghana is. Okay. I ended up coming with my son, and then after 6 months, went back to London for about a month, and I was just like, I can't do this. I need to leave. I need to go back to Ghana.
Okay.
And I came back in May, I think it was 2010. Okay. And then our agency got our first major contract with Vodafone in September 2010.
Okay. Now, can you just walk us through the journey of you moving from your first client, you just mentioned Vodafone, through to how many you have now?
The Vodafone contract, it landed on our desk. We had 2 weeks to turn it around. They basically said that they were launching BlackBerry at the time on Vodafone. All the other major networks had already launched BlackBerry, so they wanted something experiential. Right. They already had an idea of what they wanted to do. So that plus what I had to offer and what our team could bring, we were able to turn it around in the 2 weeks. And as a result, RIM, who are the people who own BlackBerry in South Africa, they were down, and they said it was the biggest and most exciting event they've ever experienced. Wow. And that was in Africa, and we were just like, what? Yeah, and like it was 2 weeks, and like my team was like, there was about 4 of us. And as I said, I came back into Ghana in May. We got this contract in in September. Our company officially opened in July. So in terms of infrastructure of the business, staff training, etc., it wasn't there. So it was just by the grace of God that we were able to actually execute that. And then straight after that came UT Bank. They wanted us to do, again, it was a short turnaround. Okay, we have an event. Can you turn it around for us in 3 weeks? We were able to do that. Mr. Amabing loved the whole experience again. And then just after that, you know, people just start knowing what you're doing and, you know, referring you and saying, okay, what else can you do? And trying to continue to expand your horizons. And outside of what we were doing locally, we also had an international presence because we was like always on LinkedIn. Also, a lot of my contacts were based outside of Ghana anyway, so it allowed us to make sure that we communicated with them to say, hey, this is what we're doing here, so on and so forth. So it just very naturally grew. I mean, there was times where it stops very short, but then when that happens, I'm always prompted to do something in the company. So at this point, you now need to develop the team a bit more. At this point, you need to build your infrastructure a bit better. At this time, you need to invest. So every time the business slowed down, it was always a breathing gap for the company to grow. Exactly. And every time we grow, then something better will come along the next time. So where we're at now, we're quite good.
Do you have this experience in the UK, what you're doing now, before coming in here? Or what was it?
Quite often, I reflect back on my time before coming to Ghana. And I realized that my journey started maybe Ghana's 50th independence. That's when my journey started. And I could see, like, I studied media, culture and communications at university. I entered into the public sector where I was working with Comic Relief. I realized that I was limited to grow in the public sector, so I shifted into the private sector. And as I shifted, I was an operational logistics person. Then I had a calling to start doing marketing in Africa, then worked for this company called Africa Confidential, which allowed me to travel, meet presidents, ministers, so on and so forth, hear the dialogue of what was going on the ground in Africa. Then I did consultation for IC publications who do New Africa and African business, etc. And then fallen into Ghana. So it was just like a continuous, it was just, so it happened, like I said, it all started on Ghana's 50th independence, where we were all celebrating Kwame Nkrumah in the UK. Then I was curious about who what does he actually stand for? I know who Kwame Nkrumah is, but who is he? Like, what was his, what was he really about, you know? So I wanted to find out more, and then it just grew from there. So in terms of experience per se in what I'm doing today, not necessarily, but the passion has always been there. Anyone that's known me since I was young, I've always been about doing business. Like, even if I was working, I'll be trying to do another business on the side, exactly. And always trying to set up a business, and everyone in my company would be like, you're going to be a millionaire one day. and I was just like, I hope so.
Let's go back a little bit.
Okay.
I'm sure once you decided to come in, you probably informed friends, family that you want to come in. What was their response, or what was their reaction like?
Okay, like I said, I'll take two key responses, which was my mother and my father's. My father was for it all the way up until the time he actually realized I was going the following week. And then he was just like, girl, you know there's malaria in Ghana and you're taking a newborn baby. Are you sure? I was like, Daddy, if it was that bad, everybody would be dead in Ghana by now. So I'm sure there's a way in which people will survive with it. Right. And he was like, So he did all of the groanings. Since I was, let's say, about 10, 11, my mum would spend 6 months in Ghana and 6 months in London. And the crazy thing is, when she used to do that, you know, as kids, we'll be grieved. Like, why is our mummy leaving us? Why is she going to this African country? Like, why? You know, we were really upset about it. But then now, and this is the amazing thing, like now, we're actually reaping from my mum investing that time that she did coming here and everything else. So at the point where my mum did early retirement and she was in London, for her it just didn't make sense. She was like, okay, well, you're my last born, and if you're leaving, why am I here? So she chose to leave, and she came as well.
That's good. What factors have What factors have favored your business?
I have to take it back a little bit,
Okay.
because for the first 2 years, being in Ghana, or 3 years, it's been incredibly difficult, because she's from Abrochi, too no. So that naturally, there's this natural thing that guards people from even wanting to do business with our agency at the time. And the other factor was that they felt that maybe the ideas that we were coming with were too European, British, kind of like, so they didn't, it was really, really hard. Then after 3 years of us being in the system, we actually rebranded our agency, and we called our agency something new, like I said, which is Sixth Sense Manifesto. We established a base in Nigeria. We got a board of directors. Then we went out with a vengeance. Like, it was almost like, despite everything people have said to us over the years, we've still been able to build a very good clientele, and we're still pushing to be that #1 below the line media agent or marketing agency in Ghana. So I would say our experience has favored us, our output, what we've actually done, because there's one thing for an agency or for a company to say, we're good at this. It's another thing to actually see that they're very good at it. So after a while, my confidence grew, because I knew that whatever we were doing was good, and it was not the same as what other people were getting. And not only that, we made sure that we were affordable as well, making sure that just because we're good at what we do and we give you a good quality, doesn't mean we have to charge you exactly a ridiculous rate. And then an amazing team, you know, understanding between myself and my foundation, like the very foundation of my agency, was imperative, because once we were able to have an understanding of one another, and then we built a rapport and in a relationship, then that began to favor us, because we're all now working for the common good, and we're happy, and we're trying to build each other up. So as soon as that started happening, that became a favorable. So internally, there was a favorable. Externally, in terms of how people saw our company, was also favorable. Our board of directors, like 6 incredibly influential people in both Ghana and Nigeria. And then just past experience, past clients and stuff like that, who had seen what we'd done and wanted to use us or would refer us. And then friends of our company as well. So all of those became our favorable factors and still remain our favorable factors till today.
How have the negatives worked for your good?
It hasn't really, and I'll tell you the reason why. The negatives for me tend to be people's personal issues. It's not necessarily a corporate issue. It's just that very person that you're coming into interaction with on a day-to-day basis. That person tends to have limitations. And in their limitations, the only way that they're going to feel better than you would be to make you feel irrelevant, or that you're not adding value, or that you don't understand. I choose not to believe that. So it just goes over my head. So that's what I'm saying. It's a very personal thing. And then on a grander scheme of things, the people who don't get it, who don't use us, I just can see they're not ready. Because with what we do in terms of brand management, you know, Ghana is a system, whereas in a corporate world, you know, maybe 20 years ago, people set up, and those same businesses were able to finance other businesses, and people knew them, and it was a network thing and stuff like that. But then now, where there's Nigerian, South African, German, American, British companies entering into the market, Ghanaian companies are suffering for the very thing that I'm trying to talk to them about. So then I realized that this is not something I need to grow from. It's something you need to grow from.
Don't you think it must have built in you some kind of resilience? And
no, before I came to Ghana, I was always that type of person. I can't lose. That's just standard. So before I came to Ghana, I had that in me. Like, I just don't like the feeling of being defeated, because then it will worry me. Like, how did that happen? that beat me. So coming to Ghana, when people are like, "God, Ghana's so hard. I'm gonna go back to Abuja," I'm like, "All right, see you later."
Did you have any shocks? Some 1 or 2 shocks you remember?
1 or 2. Call them Bennett. I had loads of shocks. The first is a personal shock. Very unfortunately, when we're coming from overseas, we have this very bad mentality that we are so much better than everybody else, especially if you're coming from London, because as small as that city is, they've groomed us to believe that we are the best thing ever. And what we're working for is justified, and there's nobody that works as hard as us, kind of thing, you know. And we've got the sterling, one of the strongest currencies in the world, you know. So you have all of this confidence in yourself. Then you come to Ghana, then you get a reality check. It's almost like you don't live in a real world in the UK. I don't really know how to explain it, but this is a reality check. So the reality check of not having water running through your pipes, lights off, rough roads, people lying, people stealing. I would say I'm a very honest person, and if I'm going to do something for you, it's truly from the bottom of my heart. I'm going to do it for you, and that genuineness that comes from me, if I'm offering it to you, I kind of like expect it to be reciprocated, but you find more often than not it doesn't happen here. People, when you want to help people who you feel like, you know, you could be doing much more with yourself, then you realize that most of the people don't even want you to help them like that. That's shocking.
They don't get it.
They don't get it. And I'm just like, you could be much more than this. Why are you letting yourself down? I think the other shocking thing is, very interesting thing. If I'm having a conversation with you and you're nodding your head and you're agreeing and you get it, well, at least I thought you got it. And then I realized later that you don't, and then you've taken it on a different angle and you started complaining to other people, then I'm like, I
thought you got it.
Yeah. You know, and I think the other shocking thing is the infrastructure, just the general infrastructure. It's very, very difficult for even the biggest companies to operate in Ghana, let alone the smaller ones. So that's quite of a shock to the system.
How have you navigated your way around all these shocks? Personally, I mean, for you to still stay here and say, I still want to continue doing what I'm doing.
Like I said, it's perseverance. I mean, I always say this to people. Sometimes doing an interview with me is very redundant because I always refer it back to God.